Switch to normal mode. Click to lock. There we go. Okay. Good. So it's just the two of us. Just the two of us. Okay.
Is that a Bill Withers song? Rest in peace if it is.
It's a Grover Washington and Bill Withers, I think.
Yep, you got it.
Grover Washington Jr. with vocals by Bill Withers from 1981. Jesus, I thought the song was older than that.
Yeah, you would think that.
Okay, it's funny enough now. Now I'm hearing you in the Discord and also the YouTube whatever.
So you're getting an echo. Just mute one of the sites.
No, I'm going to. Let's see.
Only because I listened to that. I heard that in the Discord chat. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we are live. We are live on Facebook, which is awesome. And we are live on YouTube. Sweet. So let me get the all right.
I just realized I had this going for like another 20 lines. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, see here's the downside. Yeah. I don't know that I can mute you on Discord without muting you on Discord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. All right. So
you know what? It's like, I mean, I don't know what it sounds like on your end.
Okay, here's the easy way to get around it. Are you what browser are you using?
Chrome.
Okay, cool. So right click the tab itself and click and just say mute tab.
Oh, mute site. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I don't know why I didn't think of that. Okay.
See, with Telepsych, okay, this is one of those things where I'm glad nobody else is in the chat because I don't want people to know this. But on Telepsych, depending on what I'm doing, if I'm listening to music or whatever, I'll just mute the tab, you know, while I'm seeing a patient, so I can just go about my business. And as soon as I'm done, I turn it off and go right back to listening to music. It's a lot easier than closing it down and opening it back up, whatever. Like if I'm listening to Pandora, stuff like that. Of course, I know I run the risk of like, why the hell you got Jay-Z playing while I'm trying to talk to you about some serious issue? Like, well, hey. All right.
All right.
I'll ask your input with this next line. Because I got my. It's not even meant to be a joke.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I'm just trying to set myself up a little bit here so I'm physically comfortable. So let's see. When I'm talking to a stranger, I feel like right now. Whoops.
Shit. Sorry. Huh. Sorry. I thought it would pick up exactly where you left off, but apparently it didn't. All right. Huh.
All right. I've brought up the YouTube. And the Facebook to see if we get comments during the recording session.
Okay.
So now I've got basically I have 3 tabs open watching us, and they're all muted.
Huh.
So.
All right.
All right, let me try and close some of my. Okay. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to happen. Okay, whatever. And then after all this, after we write the skit and everything, we still have to do Wicked and the Divine.
Ooh, okay. I got a naive line for this.
I can't hear you now all of a sudden. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Oh, you must have just been really quiet because I had you, I had all the video things muted, but I assumed, you'd still be chatting in Discord or whatever. Whoa.
Look out.
Um,
Uh,
all right. Oh, that's why. Okay. Oh, well, I'll keep that in mind for next time. I forgot to edit the title of the recording session. So it's just Capes on the Couches live stream.
whatever.
I mean, it's technically correct. Although on YouTube and on Facebook, it's called live streaming with Get Vocal. Facebook is doing live subtitling,
How accurate is it?
which is very cool. Um,
Hmm.
okay. Whoa, I don't mean to mislead you. I mean, it gets better. I feel like Laura would definitely have that kind of a pushback.
Yes. Yes. And I actually have a pretty decent response to that.
Ooh, good. That'll get her talking about Sensei.
Uh-huh.
One watching now. I don't know if that's me or
Yeah. To go back to the skit. Yeah. I'll let you jump in because that was the point.
um, I don't want her to put that that Sensei taught her how to kill. I feel like that's a little too much for her to put on him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to learn.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's got a soft spot in her heart for Sensei.
Mhm. Okay, with the Patreon exclusive comment, I got to be careful how I'm saying this next, how I'm typing this next line, because yeah, okay, this will work either way.
Or is it?
Ah, damn it! I keep doing that. That's my fault. Sorry. Got it.
Good catch. Yeah, I need to make sure that I add emotions and how I want some of these line readings done when I send
Yeah.
it to Hannah,
Yeah,
because she needs to have a flat affect most of the time.
exactly. That's pretty much what I was thinking. That she's deadpan this whole time. The second that she started talking about Sensei, you get the softer side, and of course, with the Patreon side, you're going to get the bitterness and anger. You know, with freaking
Yeah.
rights. So yeah, but that's exactly it. Her not even recognize that that's a thing.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to lead with the next question.
Do it that when it shows up. Now I did it. Um, yeah. It's hard to think about that kind of thing when you're fighting for your life. I love Gabby as a character, especially as a foil to Laura.
Yeah.
Oh, Seth joined on Facebook. So Seth is watching, our resident meme master.
Absolutely. Love them. And my favorite by far was the one about the puns. That
Yes.
was
the Joker. Joker
oh,
getting run over,
yeah.
you know. Oh,
Yeah.
me listening to a regular episode. Doctor Issues puns at the end.
Uh, uh, yes, yes. Can't have just nice, clean endings.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Clean endings. Doctor Issues is puns.
All right, so back to this.
That came out of nowhere.
Mhm. Gabby, she's brought a lot of that. Yeah, I'll tie this back in.
Mhm. Yeah. Sorry, this is a little boring right now, Seth. We're still doing some writing. So we haven't actually gotten into the recording
Oops.
Damn
it.
part of the episode, or at least the meat of it.
Yeah, this is how the sausage gets made, you know.
Yeah. Ruby knows all about it on the rare instances where she can actually make it to the recording session. Typically, she's working. In fact, she laments on the reg.
Mm-hmm.
Nick asks, I think this is my friend Nikitas. I'm not really into comics, but I know many people are. When did you get into comics, and what was your first comic? So I guess while we're, I'll answer first while you're writing.
Yeah.
For me, oh God, I was into. I'd read a lot of comics when I was younger. I've talked about this on one of the other episodes. I don't recall which one. I was into them a lot as a kid because my mother was big into comics back in like the 60s and 70s. So I grew up reading Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, just comics here and there. And then I fell off, I guess, in high school and college. And then as I got older, and then the Iron Man movie came out, and that sort of helped reinvigorate my love of comics and reading comics. And now, if you're watching on the live stream on the video, that file cabinet right there is filled with my comics. You can see several of my Moon Knight pieces that I've had commissioned behind my head in my office. So it's a lot of fun. It's an expensive hobby, although I've saved money over the last 2 months because I haven't gone out anywhere. So, all right, let's go back to.
Yeah. All right. So I put in a couple more lines, went to the next one. So yeah, if you want to pick up from there. All right. My answer, to be honest, I don't remember a lot of stuff when it comes to childhood things. So I can't give an exact time, first comic, anything like that. I just know that Well, I'll start with not what we are talking about when we say comics. Usually, I always read the Sunday paper. Uh, my dad made sure that the
Same.
comic section was available for me, so I got exposed to all of that. And a few of them were a little dramatic. I actually stayed away from those. I always went directly to the ones that were humor, slapstick, all the things that everybody reads. At some point, really don't recall age. I just loved the idea that characters could do what obvious humans couldn't. So just that premise. So Superman, of course, was one of them. Batman, Spider-Man, but mostly DC. And I think that was because most people wouldn't believe this about me, I don't think, but I was a huge, just, tube head. Like, I just watched TV constantly. It was on in the background, even if I wasn't directly watching it. And I always felt like I was absorbing things by osmosis. But I got exposed to so many characters through what, in retrospect, are really crummy and very ridiculous versions of comic book characters, be it Marvel or DC. I'm talking like really early on, not even the Fox X-Men, which I still think is the pinnacle of what comics can be on in animation. But anyway, so I never got into heavy direct book collecting. I did get the Death of Superman lineup and still have it somewhere, or maybe my parents still have it. It's not with me right now, but I made sure I followed all the lines, and I did some things that, let's just say, I had a collection, and it was all digital. Apparently, that's now fully accepted, so I don't have to sound so awkward while I'm saying it. But whatever, I did it at a time when the internet was a little different now.
Well, I think that the issue is not so much that your collection was digital. It was how you came to acquire it was the source of the issue.
Like I said, I did it online through the internet. What other information would you need to know? But no, seriously, though, I don't know. I always just enjoyed it. The idea that you could have the entire world seemingly coming to an end, and a few dedicated people or characters or aliens or whatever could just either by themselves or teaming up basically accomplish anything was always a great thing to read about or watch or whatever. So that's what's always been the interest to me. I didn't know I was going to be a psychiatrist. So once I started getting into that, I definitely saw them in a different light, but not much different than any other work of fiction. And thank goodness Anthony really rolled with it when he had this idea running around in his head.
All right. So, so that's Laura's answer to the question.
Yeah. Okay. As a matter of fact, what I was doing there was a reference to a Batman episode where he talks about that, and I think it's Tim that says, are you referencing happiness? And he says, whatever it is, I like it. Anywho, let's see. Oh, I probably should have asked this a while ago. Any ideas on how you want to end it?
Yeah, I was considering a few potential options. One of which was that she starts to emote a little bit, and you start to peel back just a slimmer, just a sliver of who she is. And then she gets a call that she has to go to work, that some shit's going down. And then she, just instantly okay. She goes right into,
it's done. Yeah.
I have to stop. I have to fight this thing. And just sort of very abrupt. Which I feel would be very much in character for her.
Yeah.
Another option would be similar to that in that she just decides that she's done and she just leaves. So
Yeah.
I don't think, you're not going to die.
Right. No. I wasn't thinking that. No.
But just that she just basically goes, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah. And that's what thank you for saying that, because that's what I was kind of hinting at, like really early on with the whole, like, yeah, just like everybody else, bye. Like, that's not even to be rude, just like, if it's not going to do anything, then, or in this case, it's like, oh, that was like, no, this is a little too much. Like, okay, we got to end here, As a matter of fact, that once again, not even as a threat to me, more like, I got to go. It's like, well, no, we got no, we're done. Okay, we're done. All right. Anyway, back to the line itself. It's kind of rubbed off on me. I consider it making me a more well-rounded person, I guess.
By the way, while you're writing that, I have two ideas for a future episode, and I want to get your take on it. Either our next trade paperback review or next comic review is doing Forgotten Home, because issue 8 comes out in 10 days, and then it's done, because that's Erica Schultz's book that she's doing for comics for Comixology. And so I'm either I want to do it as a review, or I want to see if we can bring her back on the show to talk about, now that it's done, get like her, ask her some questions about the characters, and similar to what we did with 12 Devils Dancing. What are your thoughts? Which one would you?
Oh boy. I mean, considering I already read 12 Devils, I always like exposure to more stuff. So, I mean, I'm open either way. I really
okay. Because I don't want to do a review while talking to her, because
I got you.
That's I mean, not that I think we're going to slam it. Just, I mean, I've read the first 2 or 3 issues already, and I like it. I like it a lot. So, but I just feel like, maybe I think we could be a little more engaging if we talk to her about it, but also not, because I also don't want to make it seem like we're kissing her ass or anything. So.
So with this question I just asked her, part of it is that for much of her life she's been a soldier. She takes orders. She does what she's supposed to.
Unfortunately, I've read a bunch of X-23, but I can't say that I know the character so thoroughly that I can say, oh, she would find this fun, she would enjoy this, or I don't know enough to say. these are the, because most of the stories involve her fighting and being on the run
Right.
from people trying to kill her or.
Right. Oh no, I know
So-
that's the point. Yeah. Yeah. That is exactly the point. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Fixed. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's okay. It happens.
Mm.
Do 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 do.
Hmm.
Just watch a clip of Hank Hill being unable to open a can of WD-40. So he pulls out another can of WD-40 to open up the first can.
Nice. Yeah, that the line I just wrote about, I can't be your friend. It's really important because, especially now, with some of the patients that have these outpatient sessions with these other therapists or psychiatrists and stuff, I'm noticing, especially because they're doing it from home and all that they're starting to test boundaries, and we're really trying to make sure it stays professional. So especially because this is quote unquote, via telepsych.
Yeah.
I'd like to think if somebody listens to this and gets a hint from that, it's definitely worth it.
Okay. Sorry, I was watching another King of the Hill clip. What if somebody wants theirs well done? Then we ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
You cut off at the last part. I didn't hear that.
I said I was watching King of the Hill clips, and what if somebody wants their steak well done? Then we ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
Right. All right.
That's why I cook with propane. Taste the meat, not the heat. I suppose. Again, just a very flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to get a ton of chattiness out of her.
Right.
Holy shit, I just realized her sister's named Gabby and she never shuts up. I just got that.
Alrighty then.
God damn, that's brilliant.
Let's see. I'm just kind of reviewing to see how long this is. Because that's the other thing. Hers would be short. It wouldn't be kind of...
Yeah. All right, let's see if we can wrap this up in the next 5 minutes.
Right,
so we can get to recording, because we still have to actually record this and then do Wicked and the Divine.
This next line, I'm not even sure it would fit with her character, but I just want to use it. So just bear with me.
Okay. There's a wrestling podcast that is doing a watch along for Capital Combat 1990. Yes, that's the one with RoboCop.
Yes. With the cell.
RoboCop comes down, rips the doors off, and leaves. And it's never referenced again.
How hot must that suit have been? Oh,
I don't know.
Do we know who was in that suit?
No.
I know I'm answering. I'm asking questions that I know you can't answer, but
no, I don't know. My wife is now watching us on Facebook, despite the fact that she's in the living room.
And we've hit 2020 right at the perfect spot.
Hi, babe. We haven't actually started recording yet. We've been doing writing. I swear we've been working the whole time.
It's true. We really have been.
At least 80% of the time.
And what I'm trying to do with that line is pointing out that it's almost a Logan line of just coming back with something that you could just totally see him saying, but then at the end killing it because she can't help it because she really is that naive.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Kat says, uh-huh. I swear, babe, we are working. We can't just snap our fingers. And get this done. I was working earlier.
Nah, that's not.
She goes, I can spy on you now. Yes, spy on me from the living room. I don't think Laura would say she doesn't know what sarcasm. You continue with that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I need your input on it. I'm just trying to. Yeah.
You keep working on your line. I'll do.
Okay.
Apparently, she's watching me with the cat. Okay. You know what? While you're doing that, and let me know if you need me to jump in and help out with anything. I'm gonna start working on the who's it's what's it's the stuff for Wicked and the Divine.
Okay.
Do.
I want that to be, I mean, not a trigger per se, but just one of those like, I'm giving a warning shot that at some point that type of topic is gonna come up. And obviously not right now, but the fact that it's gonna come up, it's more like okay, I get it. Yeah, no, I can't do this. Like, I don't know. I'll let you have some input.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Oh, this is good stuff that you got.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Because it gives an opportunity to wrap it up. In other words, this is just at the moment where she really is coming to, like, okay, fine, whether or not you're awkward, whether or not you're an introvert, whether or not you're, all that stuff. It's like, no. The fact that you haven't been able to live a life because of what's been expected of you for things that you had no control over, you've been set up from the start. And, for whatever reason, that's what happened now. But damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me think last thing. I don't know if you want to jump back up.
right. Let's see. Do. Are you waiting for me to answer?
Yeah, if you could jump in.
Sure.
I didn't know if you were still going or. That's great. That's. I'll tell you what. Yeah. Okay. I can totally see this actually with Telepsych or with any video conferencing of her literally just saying thank you, goodbye, and her face in that frozen, you because you just disconnected without actually, like you didn't
right.
even.
That's right. I forgot it's Telepsych.
Yeah, so you didn't actually leave the chat, like you just literally like closed your computer or phone or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's fine. That's
okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
The one thing, the one Patreon line. So far. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, I don't, because I don't want to add vulgarity just for the sake of vulgarity. I want it to be organic, and I'm not really sure where else we could put it in there that would be organic. So,
nah.
All right, let's see.
Oh, I have one spot where I think I can.
Okay.
I think I can. Yeah. Just a thought. All right. I'm set.
Okay. Uh, okay, I like that. I could definitely see that. All right. Let me just. Um, Let me just share that. Okay. All right. I wrote up Wicked and the Divine.
Sweet.
Okay. And now let me get my recording shit set up. Okay. Do you have Audition open on your end?
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
Holy crap.
All right. I'm now recording in Audition on my end. I still have to figure out a way to do mix minus on this so that I loop the audio from the computer, which is you, back to the mixing board so I can stick my headphones in the mixing board and hear what I actually sound like instead of what's in my head, so to speak.
Gotcha.
There is a way to do that, but then I would have to record. I'd have to run the line out and record to the Zoom and not the PC. So I have to figure out how to make that happen.
Gotcha.
So let me know when you're recording in Audition on your end.
Okay, I am recording right now.
Okay, then we'll do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 snap so we can time it right.
Sounds good.
I don't have Craig recording in the Discord.
Gotcha.
All right, ready?
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I did it. I don't know if
I didn't hear it, but if you see if it comes up on your end and you see the
it definitely came
okay.
up. Yeah.
All right, then we're good. All right, let's get a move on then with this.
Okay.
All right, ready to go. Oh shit, we need a no shout out this week because I can't think of anybody to shout out.
Oh well.
Unless you have a show that you
Nope.
can recommend. No, okay, then no shout out. All right, ready to go in 3, 2. Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
This is issue number 80. Laura Kinney, aka X23, as selected by our president level patron Ruby. Apologies, by the way, last week for no new episode. So what happened, right? So I had contacted Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost on Twitter. Craig Kyle created Laura Kinney. We'll get to that in a second. And Christopher Yost and Craig Kyle co-wrote her first 2 miniseries together. And so I was hoping to try and get them on, and they had expressed potential interest in coming on the show. Unfortunately, we couldn't get scheduling to work. And by the time it all happened, it was Saturday night, and they didn't get back to me in time. And they're busy, and I'm totally not begrudging them at all, but I wasn't about to try and cram in writing, recording, and editing an entire episode on Mother's Day. So Doc and I said, you know what? Let's just take the week off. So I apologize again for those of you who were missing us. I know Seth, who is our resident Facebook meme master, he was missing us very much. And a couple of folks, were tweeting. So I basically took the week off. I kind of needed a break as well. I was a little fried from work and watching my son and all this COVID stuff. I needed a break. We preached self-care and mental health all the time on this show, and that applies just as much to us as it does to all of you. So if you need some time away from us to feel better or to take self-care, that's cool too. Speaking of Seth and the Facebook fan group, we've got some new folks who have joined our Discord and our Facebook fan groups. So I want to give a shout out to everybody who joined those communities. You are very much appreciated, and we welcome all of you, and we continue to grow those communities. I know folks are listening to us right now in the Discord, as well as watching us on Facebook and YouTube, because we're now using Get Vocal, which has been recommended to us many, many times by good friend of the show, Ray, over at Into the Night. I know that he uses it. I know that Phil over at Capes and Lunatics uses it. So this is sort of how we are live streaming to Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. So Doc and I, now we're actually recording this. We spent the last hour and 15 minutes writing the damn episode. So we're actually getting around to the meat and potatoes of it. So Doc, how are you doing?
Yeah. All right. The hospital system is talking about the whole adjustment with expansion back to the new normal with COVID, and our whole operations, what to do for patients coming in, all sorts of things that we're basically saying, hey, we hope this works out as well as it possibly can, because we are constantly getting revisions. My email box is full because we keep getting the same document revised about 3 or 4 times a day. So it's important, and that's why we do it. But at the same time, it gets a little frustrating. But on a day-to-day basis, things are going okay, as well as they can be under the circumstances. So I can't complain. I'm glad that you're healthy. I'm glad that my family's healthy, and we just take it one day at a time.
Absolutely. And this episode, by the way, will be coming out the day after my birthday. So, woohoo, yay, early, happy 30th birthday to me. So enough with the housekeeping. Let's get into this. Laura Kinney, because I love this character, and I'm very glad that Ruby picked her. I've been wanting to get around to her for a while. Laura Kinney, X-23. If you watched the movie Logan, you have a bit of an understanding. It's the Fox movie version of who Laura Kinney is, but I loved that movie. I thought they did a great job with it. Again, with the changes that they made. But X-23, we don't do many of these characters, but every once in a while we come across a character who is actually created outside of comics and then brought into that medium. So X-23 was created by Craig Kyle for the X-Men Evolution TV series. And then her first comic book appearance was in NYX number 3 in December 2003 by Joe Quesada and Joshua Middleton. And then her first miniseries was X-23 by the aforementioned Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost. So, Dr. Sarah Kinney is a geneticist, and she's hired to replicate the Weapon X program that famously created Wolverine. But the sample that they have has a damaged Y chromosome. So, Dr. Kinney decides to manipulate the gene to create a double X chromosome version, meaning it's a female clone of Wolverine. And after 22 failed attempts, the 23rd is a viable embryo, which she is then forced to carry to term. So, in a sense, she is X-23's mother. X-23 is raised as a killer and essentially is bred to be a weapon. She is given no human affection aside from her sensei and Dr. Kinney. At the age of 7, she is subjected to radiation poisoning to trigger the mutant gene. And then at that point, her claws are forcibly extracted and coated with adamantium. And this is all done without anesthesia because the doctor doing the surgery, Dr. Xander Rice, is the son of the doctor who created Wolverine and died after Logan's surgery. So Xander Rice is doing this as a way to sort of get back at... he's treating Laura badly because the original Weapon X killed his father. So this is the sins of the father being paid for by someone who literally had nothing to do with it. So X-23 is subjected to a trigger scent, which drives her into an unstoppable killing rage. And they test this out by putting the trigger scent on her sensei's blade. So she is forced to murder her sensei very savagely. And so Dr. Kinney kidnaps X-23 and, long story short, gets her to kill Dr. Rice, which she does. But before he dies, he puts the trigger scent in Dr. Kinney's hair. So now X-23, again, uncontrollably murders her own mother. But before Dr. Kinney dies, she gives X-23 the name Laura. So now she is going by Laura Kinney. And so Laura escapes to New York and she begins working as a prostitute for very unsavory clientele because Laura's healing factor allows her to heal from the abuse that she gets from these Johns. So she encounters several runaway mutants. This is in the NYX storyline, and she and the other mutants work together to escape the people hunting them. Then she meets Logan, Wolverine, who tells her that he knows all about her because Dr. Kinney wrote him letters while Laura was growing up. So Laura joins the Xavier Institute to work with other mutants, learn how to be a human, as well as become a little closer to Logan. So then Cyclops asks her to join a very lethal X-Force team, but Cyclops doesn't run this by Logan because, say it with me, Scott is a dick.
That's a dick.
And this puts Scott at odds with Logan because Logan wants her to be a kid and make her own choices. He wants her to have the life that he never really had the opportunity to have. So then she starts working with the time-displaced original X-Men. Not going to get into that. Why? Because comics. Buy the t-shirt. And starts dating teen Warren, the original Angel. And then after Logan famously dies in the Death of Wolverine storyline, she takes up the mantle of Wolverine for a time. And then Logan returns because comics. So she becomes X-23 again. And at this point, she meets other clones that Dr. Kinney had created, or rather, I should say that Alchemax had created once they figured out how to successfully create clones. Then they made other versions of the clone X-24 through X-50. And so one of them, Gabby, becomes very close with her, and she and Laura consider each other sisters, and Gabby becomes a hero in her own right. Honey Badger and then Scout. Gabby is very much the little sister that Laura never got an opportunity to have.
Yeah, I apologize. I have a question. What's the name of the agency that created, was it Alchemax?
Yes.
Okay, so you could say that they were really trying this whole genetic manipulation by any means necessary.
Yes. Yes, you could. You're not even waiting to the end of the episode for the puns.
Oh, come on, man. You know, you get to deliver all this information and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. But I was sitting on that when I'm like, oh, I got to throw it in. I was going to wait, but nope. Nope. Sorry.
Yes. I raise my fist to you. If you're watching on the live stream, you can see me raise my fist.
Yep.
Side note: your sister's watching. Nisi, we are watching. Pierce is happy to see you both. Hey, Pierce. Hey, Nisi.
Hi. That's awesome.
So very cool. Very cool. So right. So getting into the issues, and again, this is let's try that again.
Okay.
There's a lot more stuff that happens with Laura and X-23, but again, in the sake of time and not trying to go into a full deep dive on the background, we'll just delve into the issues. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and one of the things that certainly most defines Laura, is she's had no childhood whatsoever. So, I mean, there's arrested development, there's trauma. She wasn't raised, she was bred. She was denied any affection, any contact outside of whatever was needed to make her an effective assassin, a weapon that could be controlled. That's very, very hard to put that on a kid. And then again, at the age of 7, she is subjected to this horrifying surgery with no anesthesia. It's terrible. Xander Rice is a sadist and an absolute monster, and he is, responsible for turning her into a killing machine. So, Doc, I know we've covered one or two characters that didn't have much in the way of childhood. That didn't really get an opportunity to do a whole lot. Didn't really get a chance. I know we did the Cuckoos, the Stepford Cuckoos, as teenagers. Yep. They, as clones of Emma Frost. That was a whole thing.
Yeah. In one of our thematic episodes, it wasn't dedicated purely to her, but with Hit Girl.
Yes. Hit Girl.
The way she was raised.
Absolutely. Yeah. So talk a little bit about what some of the things are that Laura's had to deal with throughout her young life, because at this point now, like currently in the comics, I would say she's late teens, say maybe like 19-ish.
Mm-hmm. Well, the bottom line is you don't have a say as to where you're born, how you're born. I know I've called it the genetic lottery. In this case, though, the genetic lottery was rigged. So even though she didn't have a say, everyone else sure did. And they had their intentions as to what they wanted from her life. So children don't have agency. They're not able to make those choices, and they rely on responsible adults to make them for them until they get to an age where they could start to at least have some input. Even if it's still an age where they're not going to have the final decision, at least they can have the sense that they're being heard. They have a sense that they're a part of the conversation. Laura never got that. So there's a couple of ways that can go. If it's someone that rather takes a subservient role, then they may become a doormat. They don't do anything or have anything because they'll only have what people give to them. But it's very clear, and for obvious reasons with the genetic background with her father, quote unquote father, then she's going to be a fighter. And in that sense, she's not going to be a doormat, but at the same time, it also means that she can be molded and can unfortunately do exactly what they want. She's a killing machine. And it's not her fault, but it is her problem. So she doesn't have the opportunity to process any of the things that we would expect children to process. When you make a mistake, and everyone knows this classic trope, if you see a kid and they're putting their hand near the stove, you don't let them burn their hand off. But if they get near the flame and they pull it back, as the natural reflex biologically we have does, you give the feedback and say, see, that's hot. Don't do that again. And the child hopefully will learn quickly without having to have that experience again, maybe once more, but hopefully not more than that. They won't do that again. But in this case, to make the analogy even worse, this is someone saying, okay, Laura, you know that thing is hot and it can really hurt you, but it can hurt others. So let's figure out a way to make sure that you put as much people on that flame as possible. That sounds like a ridiculous thing that you would say to a child, and yet that's exactly what they were designing her to do. They were trying to make sure that the things that we consider to be safe or things that we consider to be appropriate didn't apply to her. And part of that was something that is absolutely ridiculous. I don't care who you are. If you have certain abilities and things, you don't just automatically expose them to radiation. That's the dumbest. Sorry. I'm not going to get off on that tangent too much. But the point being, they were exposing her to a lot of things that most people would consider for a young child to be negative, and never once considered the idea that even if you were trying to make this person into an assassin, that you might want to put in some of the backstops so that as the person gets older and has to deal with adult conversations or other situations that most children gradually get exposed to, that they're just, she's just thrown it all at once. That's not going to go well in the long run, because your parents are the ones that usually, along with teachers and other responsible adults, know how to meter this out, as opposed to just saying, okay, we're going to give you nothing and you're going to be exposed to everything. That sounds like a recipe for a disaster. So this is a child that thankfully has enough of what Angela Duckworth, who's a famous studier of this, calls grit, meaning that she has certain characteristics that allow her resilience in the face of adversity. And so she's able to survive it. But there's a difference between surviving and thriving. She has one major skill, and I'm not going to use that line because I think Wolverine has used it way too many times. I'm just going to say she's quite good at what she does, and what she does is unpleasant. Sorry, I just had to end on that.
Well said. I was wondering if there was any way that that was going to get brought up. I know it was referenced in the NYX miniseries, the NYX series where she was debuted. The John, like literally her first introduction in comics is her, wrapped in the bed sheet, and the John is leaving the bed, and you can see all the scars and lines on his back, and he says, you're the best at what you do, or something like that. And it's like the little reference to the, I'm the best at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice. So I was wondering if you were going to find some way to work that in there. So kudos on you for doing that. So that sort of segues then very well into the next issue that she has, which is an absolute lack of social skills. And the version of her now is much better than it was when she was first introduced. Because, by the way, I did not realize until I started doing my research on this, I didn't realize just how long she'd been around. She predates House of M, which I did not think she did. I was looking this up. I was like, she's been around since December of 2003. Okay. That's almost 20 years she's been around. Like, that's 17 years. That's a long time. I thought that she was maybe like a 8 to 10 year character. And I started reading about, I was like, oh, she did this. And she survived House of M. She was in Messiah. Oh, wow. Okay. She was in all these major mutant events. So the version of Laura that existed then had zero social skills, none. She still is, shall we say, brusque. She's, I guess, utilitarian as a conversationalist. It's, what do I need out of this conversation? What is this going to do for me? How can I use this information? So there's not a lot of small talk. There's not a lot of banter. And I think that ties in to obviously the lack of childhood. But I'm curious though, and you can talk about this a little bit. You were just mentioning everything that she was put through to raise her as an assassin. You would think that maybe to make her a more effective assassin, one that could blend in with the crowds, one that would serve well as, a mark, or one that would allow her to get closer to her mark, that she would need some sort of social skills. Because if you encounter somebody who's very stilted and awkward and not a good conversationalist, you're not really going to be able to get close to them. I just think maybe it was potentially short-sighted on the part of Dr. Rice and Alchemax to maybe somebody should have taught her how to have an actual damn conversation. But I digress. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about lack of social skills and being awkward, because I know you know a thing or two about being awkward.
Thank you, Anthony, for that setup.
You're completely blowing up your spot.
I really appreciate how you made sure that people know that I don't suffer fools well when it comes to conversation. So yeah, it was a little bit of a dig, but no, it's true in the sense that I'm going to bring up something that's actually really personal. So in high school, and Anthony knows this story, and he was the one that reminded me of it a couple of years ago, but I completely forgot about it, suppressed it really. In high school, if there was a party or if there was something going on where I did not want to talk to people, I would just simply raise my shirt over my head. I would not talk
or
to
put
them
a napkin over your face.
because I thought I just simply would not talk to them because I just didn't think it was worth it. That was incredibly immature of me, and I know that in hindsight. But it goes perfectly with this conversation, because the whole point is not every conversation has to be about the meaning of life. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the phase I was as a teenager, or in my 20s or my 30s or now or whatever.
Last week.
Well, no. I'm just saying, look, there's still parts of a person that you're not going to change. And the whole point is you don't have to change, but you have to recognize that this is a very wide ranging environment that we're in. And so you're never going to have the opportunity to connect just perfectly with everyone in the right moment. And I think now more than ever, we start to get this disillusionment about what it's supposed to be to interact with another person because of what we've been exposed to through television, through the internet, through so many different forms of media. We get a glorified version of it. And so it may or may not lead to people having interactions that aren't realistic. The problem with Laura is that it's completely the opposite. She wasn't intentionally exposed to a lot of things. So even if it's not the greatest way to see people interacting through TV shows or movies or read them in books or seeing your parents or seeing your siblings or seeing your friends and all of that stuff that we take for granted, she had her sensei. She had her surrogate mother, basically. Later on, she had Logan. And the gaps in between those things, or the minimal contact that they all would have with her because of what she usually would do with most of her time, means that it was so incredibly limited. You don't get a chance to build a repertoire. And once again, because I think it is worth it just to say it for myself, I at least have had people tell me, like, you seem like a real wallflower, but once you get to talking, how do we shut you up? And in that sense, it's relevant though, because just because someone's quiet, that doesn't mean they don't have something to say. Laura actually was in that situation. She was quiet, and because she didn't have much feedback and much input, she didn't have much to say. So you have the double whammy of having a certain level of potential social anxiety, like you don't want to initiate the conversation, you want to avoid those circumstances, and then once you're in them, you still think that they're uncomfortable, and you don't have anything else, even if you wanted to, quote unquote, change the subject. What is she going to talk about? That's really tough. She doesn't have, quote unquote, icebreakers I mean, she has icebreakers, she has ice picks, but she doesn't have the type of
Womp womp.
communication that, yeah, thank you. She wouldn't have the type of communication that you would expect someone to want to continue with after the first 2 or 3 lines. And so you end up with this horrible feedback loop. I don't want the conversation, but if I do have it, you're not going to want to continue with me, and therefore I was right in not wanting the conversation in the first place. Once you get into that system, you're going to think that all the feedback you're getting is telling you, see, this was all a bad idea. So you're not going to want to interact any further. So now you're going to be more isolated than you were when you started, even though other people may have some interest. To be honest with you, at least Logan, because of the obvious reasons with their background and the letters that he got from Dr. Kinney, that's why he was interested. I have the strange feeling that aside from fighting her, if it weren't for that background, and obviously when she starts bringing out the claws, would he have been interested? I don't know. I don't write for them, but I'm not sure he would. So I'm not sure if she didn't get over that part and didn't have someone on the X-Men interested in her organically before they knew anything else about her, I'm not sure how far it goes. So that's a lucky break for her. Otherwise, we could be talking about this, incel 23 that just thinks that the world is completely pointless except for the next target to kill.
I think you just came up with an awesome what if for Marvel. What if none of the X-Men had ever heard of Laura before she, showed up at the Institute or what have you? It's a fascinating idea. There was I also like your comment about just because she's quiet doesn't mean she doesn't have anything to say, or the notion that, if folks are quiet, that they don't have anything to say, or the idea of wallflowers in general. As an extrovert myself, I've always sort of done my best to try and help introverts, because I feel that I have a lot of friends who are introverts. And
really,
yeah, I know, shocking. And so I've always said that one of the reasons why I can sometimes be a little over the top, and I know you're shocked at that I can be over the top, is that if the attention and the focus is on me, then they feel comfortable in being who they are. Because I have a lot of friends that are very uncomfortable, even more so than you. And yes, I'm being dead serious, that if the focus is on them in any way, shape, or form, they completely shut down. But I also know that they have a lot of interesting things to say, and that they're very funny, witty, insightful people. They just don't want the focus on them. So I'll come in, I'll suck the attention out of the room, and then all the focus is on me, and then they can be free to, okay, I can say these things and I can do whatever. And yeah, it does feed my ego. I'm not going to lie that there's that part of it, but it gives them the opportunity to let their hair down. And so I think if I were in that situation, I would do that for Laura, because she certainly doesn't want to be the center of attention. And I have no qualms with it, but I also think that she's got a really fascinating story, and I would love to hear more. So as long as I can, again, this is, me inserting myself into the story here, but if I could find a way to draw the attention off of her and give her the freedom to open up, that she would feel more comfortable, because the goal is never, at least from my perspective, the goal is never to turn an introvert into an extrovert. I see all these things, these articles online for, to help introverts be more extroverted. You never see articles how to, if you're an extrovert, how to shut the hell up. You never see those articles. God knows I need them sometimes. but I think there's a balance there. But if I could help somebody like Laura just come out of her shell just a little bit by pulling the attention away, I think that would be a huge benefit to her. And I think she ultimately gets that in Gabby. I think Gabby does that a lot for her because Gabby is way more outgoing. I said before we started recording that it just occurred to me that Gabby is talkative, and that's why she's called Gabby. I was like, Jesus, that just hit me. After having read the comics for several years. But in any case, let's segue into the third issue here. And one of the other main points of Laura's character, this constant struggle between her nature as this bred and born killing machine and wanting to do the right thing. This is something that has existed in her character for many, many years. This was something that I think Scott exploited a bit when he brought her on X-Force. I know that she was dealing a lot with that, and that's one of the things that again led Logan and Scott to argue over this. # Scott is a dick. And it's something that we see throughout her successive series, whether it's the All New Wolverine or just one of the many X-23 titled series. This struggle because she doesn't want to just be a killing machine. And she knows that she is damn good at it. And she knows that she could wipe the floor with pretty much anybody and kill, but she doesn't want to do that. But there's that struggle because, again, that's what she was literally bred to do. What does that internal fight do to somebody?
I'm thinking of quite a few people, and I'm not going to even come close to naming names or anything like that. There are people that have had some things happen in their life that were pretty rough. And as a result, they ended up being pretty rough themselves. I'm talking fighting. I'm talking a little more than fighting. I'm talking about potential jail time. I'm talking about things that in hindsight, they're not proud of. And yet when they talk about those things, you can see it on their face, have a little bit of pride in them. So it's this weird dichotomy. Many of them have gone into the healthcare field or into mental health and whatnot. And it's amazing because they can relate to a lot of the experiences that people are struggling with right now. In other words, I'll give a very basic example. If you yourself have had an addiction and you overcame it, quote unquote, because it's something that is always a struggle. But the point is you're doing better than you were before and you haven't used in years. And now you're a substance abuse counselor. Then I'll be honest, that person has an advantage over me because I haven't struggled with that. And they can talk to a client or a patient at a level that I can't match. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give one brief anecdote of a person, once again, not naming any names, where I wasn't able to connect with that patient and they were very upset, very angry in the emergency room, all of that stuff. And one of our peer counselors, within a matter of, I'd say, 3 to 4 minutes, had that person so grateful, appreciative of what everyone was trying to do. And all of it was because he remembered that they met in jail. Just that. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I didn't go to school for that. I can't possibly prepare for that. I can't train for that.
Wow.
And the point of it wasn't that he was trying to say that he was this tough guy that, or tough girl that went through all of this and they were trading war stories. Nothing like that. It wasn't that at all. It was simply the idea that I know that life can put us in some really horrible circumstances and you do desperate things. And it's okay. There's a different way to go about things. It doesn't even have to change the narrative of what's happened before. So with Laura, this was from the start. This wasn't even a matter of saying that she was put in quote unquote adverse situations. She was put in situations she was expected to be in and still excelled. And it's the rest of society that points out after the fact, by the way, this is all wrong. This is horrifying. And so from that standpoint, she has to learn from other people. It would be the equivalent of someone basically going to jail after not recognizing that, dealing cocaine to hundreds of people and getting them addicted was a bad thing. It's all they knew. They were making good money. They were feeding their family. Why wouldn't you want to feed your family? So in other words, you can justify just about any action in life. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's the proper thing to do. And so Laura still having these murderous skills is quote unquote useful in a way, and her fighting is still very useful, no question about it. Otherwise we wouldn't have comics. Let's be honest, we wouldn't read them if it didn't have some aspect of that. But that doesn't mean it has to be the only thing, and that doesn't mean that you can't take that and use it in a way that can be much more of a positive than a negative, provided that you're in the right circumstance and you continue to place yourself in the right circumstance. Now she has the type of agency that she can do that. She wasn't used to it before. She was much more used to the idea of people just simply saying, do this. Even the people that she considers a positive. Sensei says, this is how I attack someone. This is how I attack them. Dr. Kinney says, I'm supposed to go out and get rice. All right, I'm going to go get rice. Oh, wait, now I have to make decisions as to what team I want to be on? I mean, I can actually say no. I can actually do these things. Wait a minute. And you're telling me that there's another side to society that says that you don't have to end all of these with people dying? Really? That's something that we take for granted, honestly, in a very free society. I'm talking about you and me, Anthony, and I'm sure I'm talking to most of our listeners. We take this stuff for granted in our society, that the things we're doing on a daily basis are meant to be beneficial and are not going to be harmful to others. Well, what if the only thing that you knew that was that your parents made all of their money through things like, as you already mentioned, stuff like prostitution, violence, drugs, all of that, but that's all they knew. That's not fair. That's not something that you would expect someone to have to deal with. And yet, how many people live in war zones? How many people live in, I'm not even talking about the US version of poverty. I'm talking about literally have no food for days at a time. And those people, if you talk to them about some of the things we talk about, it's a different language. It's not something that you can fathom if you haven't experienced it. And so from that standpoint, Laura has to have someone intervene. It's not just whether or not she wants to improve. That's nice. That's all well and good. But if you're in a situation where no one's going to give you alternatives, then you're going to fall back on what you know. And if all they're going to do, if Scott is just going to say, you know what, you're good at it, go ahead and just get it done. Okay, then she will. And she'll be that person, and she's not going to get anything else out of life. So from that standpoint, for anybody that goes through that feels like life has just dealt this hand that is not changing, that may very well be true, but that doesn't mean that you can't play it differently.
Very powerful stuff. And I really hadn't contemplated that notion that, you were referencing the folks who have grown up in incredibly difficult circumstances and don't know any better, that they're doing what they have to, literally what they have to survive. We talk so many times on the show about thriving versus surviving. This is survival at its basis level, that there are millions of people across the world who are doing the bare minimum to survive. I recall the last Mental Health Avengers episode, Anna from Freudian Sips brought up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. These people who are at the base of the pyramid. That's all they're focused on. They're not considering anything above that. They're at the base of the pyramid. What do I need to do to live to see another day? And that's where Laura was for a very long time. And that's where so many people are to this day. And it's an incredible source of privilege for us to be able to talk about it in this way, because you and I have never experienced that level of base survival, where that is your only thought, that is your only consideration. And it saddens me in a way to think that, so many of those folks will never get to even contemplate anything above that. That they'll never go beyond that, from circumstances through any number of things that happen to them. And that's one of the reasons why I think that, at least in the US, that the quote unquote criminal justice system needs a drastic overhaul, because so much of it is focused on being punitive, and there's very little look at what led to this person making this choice. And I'm not saying that everybody in jail, should be given a therapist and released, but the notion that so many folks are driven to these things out of desperation, that those are the sorts of things that we need to that we really need to look at. But I mean, that's a topic for a whole other show. That could be a mental health Avengers thing in and of itself. So I'm not going to belabor the point too much. But what I will say is that we're going to take a short break. We'll plug some shows, and then we come back, we will get into treatment. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. I actually think that would make for a very good mental health Avengers episode.
Oh, yeah.
So I will run that by the group in the Twitter feed.
Cool.
So let's see. Nisi and Gian were in at some point. I don't know if they're still in watching.
Cool.
Yay. And all right, let's get cracking, because it's 9:00 and we still have to do the rest of this episode, plus Wicked and Divine.
Yep.
And we're back. So treatment in universe. There's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. I think it's a situation where, again, on the one hand, this is a heroic character, so you are not trying to completely change them. You are trying to get them to be a more effective hero. But at the same time, I think Laura has more trauma than most of the do-gooders that we have covered on this show. So I'll be curious to see what your take is for in treatment, and then how much of that will carry over to out of universe treatment.
So the X-Men are famous for their battle simulations, and I think that X-23 would absolutely smoke them and do a great job. I would basically make those simulations totally unrelated to that kind of battle. They're going to be battles, but not
so the Danger Room is going to be repurposed into therapy.
The Danger Room is going to be the most strange version of Toastmasters that you've ever seen.
Okay.
Because
keep going.
Because Laura has never had the experience, at least in a consistent way, of having to talk to people, whether she knows them or not, in a way that they have to listen to what she's saying, actually develop an interest of their own, and respond to the feedback. It is a battle in that sense. When you are forced to give a talk, you are a captive person. You are the attention, as you mentioned so much earlier. She can do it with someone else at first, but the point is, it has to be a topic that she picks. It could be only 5 minutes, and no PowerPoint, no other things. It's just her talking and answering questions. And just that experience by itself, I know this is like, Doc, this is something that can be done out of universe. Why would you do it in universe? Because nobody would think in universe to do this, at least not in this way. Because everybody is looking for much more dramatic stuff with her. They're all thinking about the base of her fighting or her routine and what she likes to do and all of that. Like, no, that's the point. Get uncomfortable. Put her out of her comfort zone. Make sure that she has those awkward pauses, wondering if people actually got or understood what you said. Make sure that she recognizes the facial characteristics and tics that people show when they're trying to tell you you're really off the rails here. Make sure that she gets that internal feeling of what anticipatory anxiety is, the feeling that something is about to happen and you don't know what, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. To let what could be considered negatives of having a very deadpan face, or there's other derogatory terms that I'm not going to use for that kind of face, and recognize that some people would call that stoic or sophisticated and use it as an advantage. So I would allow her to develop all of those social skills in a safe setting that she otherwise wouldn't, because let's be honest, someone like her, if she really felt uncomfortable, could act out. And if she did, that would be disastrous. So it doesn't necessarily have to be formal therapy sessions. It's just the basics of those social interactions. And am I being selfish by saying that I learned that by going to a community college in high school during the summer because I wanted to take public speaking courses because I knew that I was so shy and afraid? Yes, I am actually interjecting that because that's the truth. But I know that I did that because I wanted to. And then the next thing I knew in my life, people were asking me to do public speaking engagements, which is still true. So I'm like, how the heck does a random person like me do that? I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now, if someone like me could do that, then someone like Laura, who is still incredibly young, who has shown that she's intelligent, that has a lot of people that are supporting her in universe, I think having a quote unquote battle simulations like that and just expanding from there, I think that would be amazing.
Well, I think we need,
until she stabs like the first simulated person that gives her a bag of tea.
I think we need to talk to maybe Tom Taylor, who wrote the all new Wolverine and one of the X-23 stories. And I think also one of the X-Men, I think maybe X-Men Red that she was on. He's written a lot of Laura lately. We run that by him and see, hey, toss this out there, see how this goes. So that's a fascinating take on that, but obviously that's something that is only applicable in universe. Now, out of universe, let's say you've got someone, maybe let's go child trafficking, someone who
that's exactly what I was thinking.
That's one of the biggest real life corollaries that we could have to someone like Laura is someone who is a victim of child trafficking, someone who is forced into child prostitution at a very young age, sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused, emotionally, the whole run the gamut of every sort of nature of abuse, almost treated as a feral being. What I can't even imagine what some of the techniques would be to get through to someone like that.
Well, the more information that we're getting when it comes to human trafficking, much of it has to do with drugs, unfortunately. And so that's, in my experience so far, been the way that many of these people are being found. They're coming to the emergency room in withdrawal. They usually aren't asking for anyone to be contacted because we try and get collateral information from people that care about them. And they say the first thing like that's listed as their contact, like, no, don't call them. And that can be a tipping point to say, and that's their way for reaching out, saying, yeah, I'm in trouble. And if you call this person, sure, you'll be able to discharge me from the emergency room, but you'll never see me again because I'm back to the same spot. So the first thing is the typical basics of triage. What is it that's going on? Is it that the person feels like they're out of control? Does a person feel like they're physically and not doing well? If it's a matter of other types of abuse, I mean, in New Jersey, we have SANE, which is literally the process of making sure that you have evidence collection for anyone that's gone through sexual assaults. We make sure that the person is heard. And now in terms of specific treatments, I mean, that goes back to how it's manifesting. If the person is going through withdrawal, then we try and connect them with substance treatment. If it's a person that's experiencing what appear to be signs of acute stress, or if it's in the past, post-traumatic stress, then we try and connect them with someone that's going to give them the proper modalities for that. If it's purely a helplessness or hopelessness about their life, then we potentially can look at hospitalization if it's at the point of suicide, or they're simply not functioning, not taking care of their activities of daily living. If it's a matter of they're lashing out now and it's a matter of violence, and the reason they were brought in was because they, in theory, may have been protecting themselves, but still, because of the limited information that often comes through, it comes more across as this person is violent and dangerous. Oh no. Then we may have to involve the authorities in terms of just clarifying what's going on. These are all just the things that we do from the start in the emergency room. And that doesn't speak to the therapy afterwards in terms of the one-on-one sessions, if a person is even comfortable in that setting. Because many times that person has to relearn the idea that you can actually be, and I'm speaking as a male right now, I have to be careful when I'm talking with someone that's been through this, if they're female, and make sure that they're comfortable talking to me in an office by themselves, or do I need a female escort or nurse with me when I'm talking to them? Because otherwise I'm considered just another, as you said before, just another John. They may not think I'm going to do anything in that moment, but they have the natural response when they're in a situation by themselves with another man that they can't conceive at that moment. They're having that visceral reaction. I have to downplay that. And if I don't, then forget about doing therapy. It's basically more like, why am I being put in this awkward situation with this guy that I don't know what his goal is or what any of this is about? This all sounds basic, but it's not. It's very intense if it's not handled properly. So that's where I would start in cases like this. And thankfully, because we're usually not dealing with a Laura situation where a person is completely raised in a feral nature, that they do have the type of social interactions that is not going to make this more awkward past the first session, so that's the good thing. At the same time, it still comes back to whether or not the person really wants that level of help, because sometimes, and I'm not saying this as a slight or meant to be derogatory in any way, in the hospital especially, we do have some patients that they're living that life, and they haven't come to the conclusion that therapy or any type of treatment is truly worth it to them. And if that's the case, then we point out that help is always going to be out there, and we're always around. But, I can't say more than that in terms of forcing someone to get help, because let's be honest, the one thing that person has usually gone through is had other people just force them to do things and tell them that it's good.
Yeah. Ironically, that they've gone through it so much that you are actually trying to do what is best for them, and they are not going to perceive